noticed that a lot of you guys who watch my videos are going through a spiritual shift. You're going through a consciousness shift, and life does not make sense anymore. You're questioning life, you're questioning your upbringing, you're questioning your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, where you are, where you're supposed to be, your purpose in life. You're longing for your purpose in life because you are chosen. You feel called to a greater purpose. You feel called to be of service. You feel called to be great. You feel called for a mission and you don't know what it is. I just want to give an arm to you guys and let you guys know that this journey is not for the weak, it's for the chosen. This journey is for the strong. It's for the people who are called to a greater purpose. So you have to go through this dark season of your life. You have to go through this period of your life where nothing makes sense. Because it's only when you lose yourself is when you can find yourself. It's only when you can lose yourself is when you can find yourself. You must be broken physically and mentally so spiritually you can come alive. So we need to feed you spiritually. We need to feed your higher self. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to break through. How to break through your false sense of self so you can step into who you authentically are. Your false sense of self is your ego, your egoic mind. I see this in a lot of my clients I work with, amazing, chosen entrepreneurs, people called to be of greater service, a greater mission. I see it in their first month. It's really all unlearning. I'm helping them unlearn their behaviors. I'm helping them unlearn their ways. That they are the cause of their own suffering. That the reason they are not manifesting anything is because they're not in alignment with it. They're imagining the other outcome. They're imagining going broke. They're imagining more bills. They're imagining the worst outcome. Therefore, that is what they are manifesting. Why? Because they don't even know who they actually are. They feel lower levels of emotion, lower states of emotion. They feel anger, shame, guilt. And as a result, they live more in their ego. It was their fault. It's their fault. That's not my car. It's their car. Even though they let me borrow the car, it's not my car. It's not, I'm trying my best. They don't work as hard. This is all they do or say. They don't even see that they are the cause of their own suffering. They live in a state of victimization. But they're being called to a greater purpose. So they're being called to have more compassion and see that there is more than what they know. There is more than what you know about how to operate in reality in order to get what it is that you want. Ego loves and thrives off of separation and identification. It's trying to separate you from everyone else. It's trying to make it seem as if you're better than someone else. It's trying to make it seem as if you know more than someone else. Therefore, when you live in your ego, bringing up the emotional vibration chart, you're going to be living from a place of pride. You're going to be trying to prove yourself, your self-worth, who you are to everyone else. How are you going to do this? You're going to do this from material items. You're going to be doing this trying to prove your self-worth through status. You're trying to move up in your company and look at everyone else like, oh, I'm better than you. Or because I believe in this faith, I'm better than you. I know the whole truth. Who are you to say you know more than the next man? Who are you? Who am I to think I'm better than you? Who am I to think I'm more wise than you? That's your ego at play. When your ego at play, that's your lower self. That's your lower sense of self. That's not who you are. Because when you were born, you didn't have the job you had. You didn't have any external outside beliefs thrown on you. You didn't have a car. You didn't have none of these things. You looked at everyone from a place of what? Unconditional love. Look at a baby. Go to school for the first time and look at everyone else and want to hug and play. That's who you are. Who you are is someone with no sense of self. The difference, the main difference between who I am now and who I was in the past when I was homeless was my sense of self and how I looked at reality. I looked at everyone else like they were at fault. Why were we not where we want to be? Why was life so hard? Why couldn't my friends, family do this, do that, do this? I was blaming and fault finding, and that is your ego trying to thrive. Your ego is always going to blame someone else. Or is just going to identify itself like I, me, it's about me. Why didn't you do this for me? Why did they do this to me? This is how your ego continues to live and thrive, keeping you stuck in an unconscious state, a lower state of vibration and awareness, and a lower frequency. Because when you operate from ego, you're only going to be operating at the highest from a place of pride, proving your self-worth. You're going to feel emotions like shame and guilt and anger. And you guys don't even know that your ego, the way your brain is designed, it feels pleasure. When you feel bad in life and you try to complain and put the wronging on someone else, in the same sense, you feel a sense of pleasure and you don't even know it. You feel good about it. And the reason you feel good about it is because by you putting the blame of why your life is the way it is on someone else, you feel a sense of superiority. You feel superior in a way you don't even know it. So how do we break through? How do we become a more loving, more compassionate, higher frequency, godlike version of ourselves? Well, we need to accept. We need to accept that there is more to life than us. There is more to life than you. Your problems are not the only problems. Your worries are not the only worries. Your pains, your struggles, what you fear are not only your fears. Other people are going through things just as much as you, and you are no different than them. And once you understand that, I needed to understand that. I needed to be homeless. I needed that experience. A lot of you guys are going through a dark experience. You need this experience because it was when I was homeless and looking at my life like, oh, I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not rich yet. I'm not making this money. And I see someone, and I thought I was struggling, and I saw an older woman laying in front of me, actually homeless, didn't have a car, wasn't driving DoorDash, making money. At least I had a job. It began to change my perception. It began to change my perception. It started to dissolve my ego. That was one of the first times that it broke through my ego. It's not only about you. I believe Shakespeare said something like, nothing is relatively good or bad. It's your thinking of the situation that makes it good or bad. Someone is praying to be exactly where you are. Someone is praying to be exactly where you are. And their reality, their perception would be life is amazing. Yeah, you are where you are. And your perception, because you've been where you are for so long, probably, your perception is that I'm tired of being where I am. And that is your ego at play. In both scenarios, your ego is in play and their ego is in play because your ego is always longing for something different, a different experience. This place is cool, but maybe that place would be better. This car is cool, but their car is better. Why don't I have that car? That's your ego at play because your sense of self, your beingness is your most present, grateful, loving sense of self. This is why Jesus said something along the lines of, love your enemies. Love your enemies. And he didn't say, like, he's not meaning like anything outside of yourself. He's talking about your egoic mind. Your egoic mind. Give love to your egoic mind because when you love it, when you understand it, once you have the awareness that it is your ego and it's not who you are, you transcend it. You step into a higher sense of self, a higher, more authentic version of self, and a healthier state of consciousness and being. This is how I help people break through and get to the other side of their pain, of their lack, of their poverty, of their victimization, is by helping them understand that they are living in their ego. The results, the things that are manifesting or not manifesting is because they are living from ego. They are not living from a place of love. You know, I recently just started a new client and I'm humbled. I'm so grateful because she has an amazing story. You know, she had a transplant. She needed a transplant. her body was failing her. And in this series of her life where it was heavy and it was difficult for herself, for her family, she told me that she felt at peace. She didn't have fear. She didn't have fear. She just knew everything would be taken care of. She knew she would get a transplant some way there. Somewhere, somehow, someone would donate what she needed. And she felt so comforted, so safe, although her family was living in fear. And the reason being is because sometimes you have to go through hardships. You have to physically and mentally be broken for your spirit to come alive, for you to live in the present moment. Imagine if you were in her shoes. Would you be thinking of the future, or would you be thinking of the moment and how it could be fleeting? There's so much peace, and you become who you are once you learn to live in the moment. Her egoic mind was no longer in a situation like that. It was no longer. So if you're going through a hard time, it's because you need to go through it. It's because you need to go through it. Once you understand, your ego is trying to protect you. Your ego wants to keep you operating from a place of pride. It wants you to separate yourself from everyone else. It wants to get you to blame your life the way it is on someone else and not on self. It wants you to continue thinking about stuff and thinking about the thinking that you're thinking about. It has you. Once you just have the awareness that it's not you, it's your ego. It's not who you really are, it's your ego. And when people react the way they act, you don't take it personally because you see past it and overlook it and acknowledge it for being their ego. This is why I think Christ said, forgive them because they don't know what they do. Forgive them because they don't know that they're living from ego. It's not who they actually are. So I'm sharing this to say, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself because you don't know any better. You didn't know any better. And you're awakening right now. You're stepping into a place of like unconditional love. Breaking through the programmings and the fear and the sense of self. You're learning to live for other people. You're learning to have more compassion for someone else because it's not only about you. This is when you are in a place to step into your God-given purpose, because once you understand that it's not only about you, people are just as afraid as you. People are suffering just as much as you. People need someone just like you. Now you step into who you really are. Now you're in a place to receive it. I love you guys. I love you guys so much. I recently had this realization that I'm building an army. I'm building an army of people ready to step into their greater purpose, ready to help the world, ready to be a light in a dark world. Comment below if you're ready to join my army.